Sometimes comics create characters so powerful that they break the stories they're in. Heroes and villains who could rewrite fate, erase gods, or end entire universes. And that's why publishers erased them. A cosmic being who turned every battle into a one-sided slaughter, a godlike hero who destroyed the very stakes of his own series, and a villain so unstoppable, writers had no choice but to wipe him from continuity. So which characters were too powerful to survive? Here are 10 comic characters so powerful. At number 10, we have the Sentry, Robert Reynolds, a hero with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. From his first appearance in 2000, Marvel described him as a hidden god who secretly shaped the modern age. His powers have included flight, vast strength/speed, energy projection, regeneration, and even molecular manipulation. But within him lived the Void, a monstrous alter ego that surfaced whenever Sentry fought. Together, they formed a cycle of light and destruction that no team could control. During the Siege of Asgard in 2010, the Void consumed him completely. He ripped Ares apart, crushed gods, and left Asgard in ruins. Sentry realized he had become unstoppable and begged for release. Thor killed him and hurled his body into the sun so the Void would never return. His narrative became the problem because his limitless power left no balance. If he appeared, every story's stakes collapsed. After Siege, Marvel reworked him. He returned as the Death Seed Sentry in Uncanny Avengers, later headlined Sentry 2018, with Doctor Strange containing the Void, and in Sentry 2023, the power dispersed to new hosts, marking a shift away from the all-consuming untouchable god portrayal. At number 9, we have Franklin Richards, the son of Reed and Sue Richards, once considered Marvel's ultimate child prodigy. For decades, Franklin carried the label of an Omega-level mutant, a boy so powerful that he could create entire universes. His most legendary feat came after the Onslaught saga, when the Avengers and Fantastic Four sacrificed themselves to stop the threat. Franklin subconsciously saved them by creating the Heroes Reborn pocket reality, proving that even as a child, his imagination could rewrite existence. But that limitless ability became a narrative problem. Every time catastrophe loomed, Franklin could undo it, leaving writers no room to build danger or suspense. His very identity as an Omega mutant also created tension between the Fantastic Four and Krakoa, as both sides claimed him. In 2020, Marvel changed everything. In Fantastic Four number 26, Franklin was revealed to have never been a mutant at all. In 2020's Fantastic Four number 26, he was retconned as not a mutant. However, later stories reinstated his Omega-level status, walking back the permanent erasure. At number 8, we have Jean Grey as the Dark Phoenix, one of Marvel's most infamous examples of power spiraling beyond control. During the saga, Jean operated as Phoenix. A later 1986 retcon revealed the Phoenix Force had taken her form, while the real Jean lay in a cocoon. She consumed a star, destroyed an entire populated system, and became a being that no team on Earth could hope to contain. What began as the evolution of a mutant became the rise of a galactic destroyer. But that limitless ability became a narrative problem. Once Dark Phoenix existed, no Earthbound story could make plausible stakes. If Jean returned exactly as she was, no X-Men arc could escalate beyond the woman who killed stars. To solve this, Marvel introduced the Cocoon retcon. In later issues, it was revealed the real Jean had been placed in stasis, while a Phoenix-created duplicate lived and died in her place. Something changed. Jean was restored as a hero, with Dark Phoenix reattributed to the Phoenix entity, the original story into a more controllable Phoenix mythology. At number 7, we have Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, a hero whose powers grew until she could rewrite existence itself. By the early 2000s, her reality-warping hexes expanded beyond probability tricks into full alteration of the world around her. During House of M, Wanda reshaped reality to give every hero their heart's desire. But when the illusion shattered, she uttered the words, "No more mutants." In a single moment, she reduced the mutant population from millions to a few hundred, changing the X-Men line for years to come. But that limitless ability became the narrative problem. A character who can delete a species with a thought collapses stakes across every story. Every catastrophe begged the question, why not Wanda undo it? Marvel responded with a rewrite. In Exis and Uncanny Avengers, Wanda and Pietro were revealed not to be Magneto's children and not mutants at all. Something changed. Wanda was reframed primarily as a powerful sorceress, retconned to non-mutant status, while the Krakoa era's official Omega level list notably does not include her. Next up, a sorcerer stripped of his mantle, a fragile man who could rewrite matter itself, and a mutant whose warped mind nearly broke the universe. At number 6, we have Dr. Stephen Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, who for decades stood at the very top of Marvel's magical hierarchy. With the Eye of Agamotto, the Book of the Vishanti, and his mastery of mystic forces, Strange had no equal. He could summon spells to banish demons, shield worlds, and even challenge cosmic entities themselves. At full strength, he was written as the ultimate safeguard of Earth's dimension. But that limitless ability became the narrative problem. By the late 2000s, Strange's ceiling repeatedly strained Avengers family plotting. Maintaining stakes often meant contriving why the Sorcerer Supreme could not just fix things. A hero who could always cast the right spell left little room for danger or suspense. Marvel answered with a rewrite. In New Avengers number 53, the Eye of Agamotto chose Jericho Drum, Brother Voodoo, as the new Sorcerer Supreme. Something changed. Strange lost the mantle, the status quo shifted toward more character-driven stories, and he reclaimed the title in 2012 after an earlier 1992 to 95 interruption. At number 5, we have Owen Reese, the Molecule Man, one of Marvel's most dangerous creations. From his first appearance, he was written as a man who could manipulate matter and energy down to the molecular and even submolecular level. With a single thought, Owen could transmute substances, reshape entire environments, or nullify attacks instantly. He stood as a fragile man in body, but a cosmic-level threat in power, a living paradox who could quietly remake reality itself. But that limitless ability became the narrative problem. A character who can unmake anything, and sometimes everything, bends plot gravity around himself. If Owen is present, a conflict either ends on his whim or must escalate to the level of multiversal abstracts to make sense. Writers were forced to remove him, incapacitate him, or restrict his willpower to preserve suspense. Marvel changed him in Secret Wars of 2015. Owen was rewritten as a multiversal keystone, one molecule man per reality, designed as bombs by the Beyonders. Something changed. The original man who could do anything was erased, replaced by a defined role in the very architecture of the multiverse. At number 4, we have Mad Jim Jaspers, a mutant whose very existence threatened the structure of Marvel's universe. First introduced in Captain Britain during the early 1980s, he possessed a terrifying ability called the Jaspers Warp, a reality-bending power capable of twisting entire universes until they collapsed under his influence. On Earth 238, his warped creations spiraled out of control and destroyed that reality completely. Later, when an Earth 616 version of Jaspers rose to power, his strength was so vast that it rivaled Marvel's cosmic abstracts. He could bend the laws of nature, rewrite existence, and overwhelm any opponent. But that limitless ability became the narrative problem. A villain who can distort reality on a universal scale leaves no room for balance, and his warp ability had no real counter short of Deus Ex Machina. The only solution was the Fury, a living weapon designed to adapt to any power, which ultimately killed him. Something changed. The original universe-breaking Jaspers was erased. Later versions appeared, but always diminished, ensuring the full warp-level Jaspers never returned. A child who grew into the Marquis of Death, a cosmic witness to the end of all things, and a god who shattered fate itself. Next up, Clyde Wincham, the Griever, and Rune King Thor. At number 3, we have the Marquis of Death, born as Clyde Wincham, a child first introduced in Marvel 1985-2008. On his Earth, Clyde was the only mutant, a reality warper whose power pulled Marvel's villains into his world and altered its fate. In future timelines, he became far darker, the Marquis of Death. Far from being Doom's pupil, the Marquis mentored Dr. Doom, then departed to wage genocidal campaigns across parallel universes. His power was depicted on a multiversal scale, erasing worlds and overwhelming cosmic-level forces. But that near-limitless ability became a narrative problem. A villain who can wipe out universes leaves little room for Avengers-level stakes. In Fantastic Four, issues 566 to 569, Masters of Doom, the Marquis returns to Earth 616 and is ultimately defeated, killed in the finale after a confrontation that involves a younger Clyde. Something changed? Clyde Wincham persisted primarily as a monitored, vulnerable youth from Earth 1219, while the apocalyptic Marquis of Death has not re-emerged at that universe-breaking scale in mainstream continuity. At number 2, we have the Griever at the end of all things, a cosmic entity embodying entropy and finality. She debuted in Fantastic Four, 2018, Volume 6, declaring herself the witness to the last light of all universes. Her power proved vast. She destroyed the new universes that Franklin Richards and the Molecule Man had created after the multiverse's rebirth. But that near-limitless scope posed a narrative problem. An entity personifying the end of everything is hard to use repeatedly without dwarfing other stories. In her debut arc's resolution, not a retcon, Reed Richards goaded her into letting him summon the Fantastic Four, then brought in former FF members. Reed identified limits in her mobility and inability to create, and she withdrew. Something changed, but not erasure. The Griever returned in Fantastic Four, issue 27 to 28, and later clashed with Scarlet Witch. Volume 4, Wanda and Pietro ultimately scattered her across time and space, delaying, not eliminating, the threat. She remains an abstract end-of-everything antagonist who has been contained and outmaneuvered, not removed from continuity. At number 1, we have Rune King Thor, the mightiest form of Marvel's God of Thunder. In the pages of Thor Volume 2, during the Ragnarok arc, Thor embraced his destiny as the Allfather. He sacrificed both eyes and hung himself on Yggdrasil to gain ultimate wisdom, mirroring the path of Odin. By absorbing the Odin Force and mastering ancient runic magic, he ascended far beyond the power of any Asgardian god. As Rune King Thor, he made a pact with Surtur, then destroyed the Loom of the Fates and cut off those who sit above in shadow, ending the cycle of Ragnarok. At this level, Thor existed beyond the Skyfather tier, closer to a cosmic principle than a warrior. But that limitless ability became the narrative problem. Rune King Thor, if left permanent, would erase dramatic stakes for Marvel's Asgardian line. A Thor who killed abstract gods and rewrote fate could not believably face ordinary threats. Marvel changed everything after Ragnarok. When Thor returned in 2007, Rune King Thor was gone. Something changed. The omnipotent All-Father form was erased, and Thor was restored to a more balanced but still mighty hero. These erased titans prove Marvel writes the rules and rewrites them. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more hidden comic history.